Now, it's going to be important for Luke, I should mention this too, to talk about restored Israel. If you remember back in Luke, I'm trying to think where it is, Luke 1:4. Luke 1:4. He writes to Theophilus to give him and the fellow Christians, I'm sure, in Rome, assurance. So Luke says one of the main points he's writing to Theophilus for is to give him assurance of the things he believes and so forth. Can you imagine if you were a Gentile and you read what we call the Old Testament, and that God called forth the people to be his own, to bear his name, gave them some rules. They didn't keep the rules so well, and so what did God do? Kicked them out, sent them into captivity, and divorced them, and cut them off. Kind of the way it reads. Now, if you're a Gentile and you want to become a Christian, they say, come and be baptized and join the people of God. I'm going, I'm not so sure about this. I think if I mess up, I could get kicked out. I'd be in big trouble. Maybe it's better not to get in than to get in and be kicked out, because I read what happened. You go into captivity, you suffer, it's terrible. So Luke is writing to I think his audience, at least some of them, Gentiles, Jews as well, but to say, hey, no, look, I want to give you assurance. God is faithful. God has not abandoned Israel. Israel is included, not excluded from the people of God. What we're saying is that the covenant is expanded to be all-inclusive of everybody, not that Israel is kicked out. Now you notice that Paul had to make that same argument, didn't he, in Romans?
Romans 11.
To the same group of people, Rome, to assure them that God has not forsaken nor abandoned his people ever. He is totally faithful, totally faithful. Okay, so we've got this people of God thing going here. So the Holy Spirit is what makes you a member of the people of God, the restored Israel. So when they met together, they asked him, Lord, are you at this time going to restore the kingdom to Israel? Now, you see, in the light of what we just discussed, doesn't that that's a logical question? This is what it's about, the restored Israel. Now you're going to restore Israel at this time? Well, when is it? Can you give us an exact day? Is it Thursday? Will it be Thursday afternoon? Logical question. But he said to them, it's not for you to know the times or the dates the Father has set by his own authority. And as we all know, that's never stopped anybody from speculating about any dates whatsoever, even though they have never been right. They keep doing it. But notice how he shifts the emphasis from chronology to what I call mission. Here's the mission. But you will receive power, and as you heard me say, the power that Luke emphasizes here of the Holy Spirit is to be witnesses. But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you, and you will be my witnesses. As I ask, what's a witness? Let's take a trial.
It actually literally means martyr.
The word, actually, the Greek word is martyrios, which literally means witness, but came to mean martyr, because after you witness, you got killed. You die. So the word actually took on a new meaning after all the witnesses kept getting killed. But we don't want to tell people that, because that slows down the witnessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need the power to be a martyr. But is that true? The power to be a martyr, literally, for Jesus, and they were. But they had the power. One of the remarkable things to me about the New Testament writings, the early New Testament church, was their concept of having found power. Power that they never had before. Power that they never experienced before. And note how often they speak with boldness. And whether they get killed or not, like Stephen, I mean, these people are speaking with boldness. They have the power. They found something that they didn't, that's a transforming thing totally. It's very impressive. And I wonder, as I said, sometimes I think we have the power, but we don't have the switch on. We have it, but I don't think we recognize it in the way they did. and don't experience it in the way they did, simply because we don't recognize it. Maybe we're looking for something more flamboyant instead of just this transforming power to be more than we ever were. We're not who we would have been without that power. I'm convinced of that. We are not who we would have been without the power. But I don't know, but I just have that feeling. I think most Christians I've talked to feel the same way. I would not be where I am today if I did not experience this power in my life. But the power here to be a witness testifies. You put someone on the witness stand and you ask them to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth to help them God. You ask them to tell truthfully what they saw, truthfully what they heard, truthfully what they read, truthfully what happens, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So what's a witness for Jesus? He tells the truth about what I've seen, what I've heard, what I've experienced, what I know to be true. I'm telling you, I'm passing it on to you. I'm witnessing in that way. I say that because this thing of witness, it gets to be another one of those fundamentalist Pentecostal evangelical kind of slang terms like, brother, you need a witness for the Lord. Just tell what you know. So tell what you know. Don't you love the story of the blind man? He was blind from birth, Jesus healed him, and he started proclaiming that Jesus was Messiah. The Pharisees, doctors of the law, scribes came along, tried to shut him up. And he said, you have no schooling, how can you tell who's the Messiah? And he says, well, I know I was blind, and I know I see. I'm telling you what I know. I'm telling you the truth, what I know. And I know. I don't need to go to school to learn that. And that's, I have a message, a sermon I started giving about 15 years ago called I Love to Tell the Story. And I encourage people to tell their stories. Because in the book of Acts, you know, one thing you're going to see over and over, people are going to tell their stories. Peter's going to tell this visit to Cornelius story at least 4 times. Paul's going to tell his Damascus Road experience about 5 times. And you go, well, Luke, we just read that a chapter or 2 ago. And you got him doing it again. Well, I think Luke wants to see the power of the story. Because people's stories tell you what? Think of Peter going to see Cornelius. Think of Paul on the Damascus Road. Think of something similar that's happened to you. When you tell that story, what are you really talking about?
What God is doing.
What God is doing, and which member of the Godhead is it who's generally involved? Holy Spirit. You're really telling what the Holy Spirit has done. You've seen, I saw it. I experienced it. I believe it. I know it's true. And I'm telling you, I'm a witness of what I've heard, of what I've seen, of what I've experienced. And I'm telling you this story. Now that story is powerful, just absolutely powerful. What saves the day, or what makes the day in Acts 15? The stories. They don't say, well, let's do a careful exegesis of Torah. They say, what's happening? And people stand up and tell their stories. And in their stories, everybody goes, we clearly see what the Holy Spirit is doing. Now let's read Torah in the light of clearly what we see the Spirit doing in people's lives. This is testifying.
Dan, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
The connotation of this word witness, having this connection to martyrdom, and telling what you know, telling what you saw, telling what you experienced, and being willing to die for it, does it carry a connotation that far?
It does, and like I say, that's where we pick up the word martyr is because of the boldness of these witnesses who were willing to witness unto death. And you know what John says in Revelation, who's going to be in the first resurrection? The martyrs. They get resurrected first. Salute. Those who've had that kind of courage and that boldness and the power of the Spirit will be the first to be raised.